DYNOS. They're one of the coolest moves in all of climbing. And no matter how big the dyno is, if you complete it, it feels awesome. And they're really cool to get on video. But a lot of people aren't that great at dynos, so how do you get better at them? So when I think of dynos, I think of a couple things. I think of when people just ballistically throw themselves at a hold and all four of their limbs are just flying through the air and they grab something that is further out of their reach than possible. I think of that, which is traditional dyno. But then I also think of dead points as well, because that's pretty dynamic. With dead points, you're more so lunging to something that you probably couldn't statically just reach, but it's within your arm span, so you can leap up to it and at the last second grab onto it while one point of contact is still holding on to the last hold. And I think when you're trying to improve dynamically, trying to improve on that explosive strength, then you're probably gonna get better at both dynos and dead points. So this orange one, I think, is a really good example of one of the ways that I have been developing my dynamic movement. So let's check it out. So I want to get to this, and it's like slightly outside of my reach. And I really have to be explosive on both of my legs to be able to lunge up to that. And you could argue that this is a dead point in a way. Either way, it's pretty dynamic. So I had to be really poppy with that movement, but I also had to be really coordinated. So there's a couple things in there, one of which is more of an immediate thing that you can do to improve on your dynamic movement, your dynos. And the other one might be more of a long-term thing. So when we're talking about how to improve, first off, there's some things that we can work on right now that are gonna fix your dynos really quickly. But then there's some things that you should work on for a really long period of time. So let's talk about those. This purple one is definitely dynamic. It starts with these two, and I'm trying to jump up to that thing. And you might notice there's a lower foothold and then a higher foothold. Now the lower foothold is just gonna be more comfortable for me to get set in, but it's a further distance from that foothold to that. So it actually means that I'm gonna have to jump more if I start from this one up like that. Whereas if you get your feet as high as possible, it's a shorter distance from that foot to where you're trying to get to. So in reality, it's actually better if I jump like that. So that's one thing that you can fix really quick, is finding the foothold that's closest to where you're leaping for. You might have also noticed that when I jump from here to there, there's an angle change in this wall, and I actually started jumping out from the wall, had to grab the hold, and then swung back in. So what I'm trying to do is actually keep myself as parallel to the pitch of the wall as possible, keep myself as close to the wall without cheese grating the wall, which is really painful and actually kind of scary. So when I'm leaping for this, I'm trying to stay nice and close to where the finish hold is, just trying to keep that straight line from here to there and not trying to jump out. For this bottom part, definitely any sort of hesitation or something, you're just gonna slip off of the volume. So a big thing for me was just committing it and getting one big fluid motion and try not to overthink it too much, but also getting a lot of practice reps of overshooting it to make sure I can get each individual move, and then finally piecing it all together, which is really fun. Hesitation is the other part. I find it really difficult to just commit to a move, and I have to focus on just commit. Don't hesitate, just try it, and you'll probably fall, and that's okay. But committing to the move. Something that's both short-term and long-term is coordination. I know that's hard to develop. It's really hard to develop coordination actually, but you can work on precision. For me, it took me a couple tries to figure out where I wanted my foot to go on this. It took me a few tries to figure out what the sequence was of me working my way through it. And it's hard to think about that while you're doing it, but if you practice it a bunch of times and get a bunch of reps into it, then it does become a little bit of muscle memory, and you can kind of imitate coordination. Because for me, coordination does not come very easily, but for others, it might. So for me, I've just had to go through a lot of reps of trial and error, especially with something like this, which is kind of a running dyno where you have to plant right foot, right foot. And then I have to think to myself, okay, right foot, right foot. And then I have to think about where my hands are gonna go as well. And the other thing about that is if you're overthinking it on your flash attempt, you're probably not gonna get it. So especially on flash attempts, just do what feels natural to you. And then after you've done that, maybe you can get some film or some footage of yourself and see what you did right, and then also what you did wrong. And then you can be more intentional about how you move your body on the wall. The next thing that is really cool is a power spot. So McKenna's gonna be my power spot and kind of push me in towards the wall, because a tendency that I have on coordinating moves like this is falling away from the wall. So watch McKenna push my butt up. Thank you. By doing that, I'm closer to the wall, might not have to spend as much energy trying to figure out the movement of it, but I do get the movement of it, and I can build some muscle memory without spending that energy. The next piece of development is something that you might not like, because it does take a little bit of time. Just your raw strength and raw explosive power that you can generate is something that you can develop over time, because the stronger you are, the more explosive you are, the more distance you're gonna have on your dynos and your dynamic movements, the less effort it'll seemingly take, because you're used to spending a lot of energy and a lot of explosion, and your body is used to doing that. Whereas somebody who's not as strong isn't gonna get as much lift and as much distance to where they're trying to go. So some ways that I have tried to develop some of that strength is really simple, doing and emulating some of that movement of explosive squats, like jump squats and running, and some other things like that. There are tons of ways that you can develop strength in your legs and strengthen your body, and explosive strength specifically. Developing that over time is going to really help your dynamic movements. But again, that's something that does take time, and some of the other items that we talked about are more immediate, because we love immediate gratification, don't we? So again, just a few ways that you can work on your dynos right now is focusing on being intentional, committing, what was the other one? Oh yeah, and staying close to the wall, your hip orientation, and a few other things like that. So I hope that you are enjoying dynos, and I hope that you get better at them so we can work on this together. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe for more videos. Stay chalky. Stay chalky. Peace.